Hi everyone, welcome back to Crochet Rocks. Tracy here, and so this is the new part of the crochet along, and I've done a couple of sections this time because I didn't really think I had a great deal of this yarn. I found another ball that I'd used, but it's not really the yarn that I got from Yarnsmiths, which is this one. Doesn't really go very far, unfortunately. So I didn't do a massive section with this stitch here, and then I decided to do this little bit here as well. So there's actually about the same amount of rows, to be honest, in both, but obviously this one works up a little bigger. So neither of them are difficult. I did promise a nice easy section because we'd had some quite a bit of bobbles and front posting and in the last sort of 2 or 3 different kind of videos. So I thought we would just stick to a nice simple one this time around. So for my swatch then, I'm going to use the orange at first, and then I'm going to use this colour. So I am going to carry on with the colours that I've got. So while I clear all this away and get ready to start, if you've not done so already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. And if you would like to join the crochet along, if you're watching for the first time, there will be a link in the description box to all of the ones you've missed so far, from 1 all the way up to now, and right and left-handed versions. Okay, so I'm just going to pause it for a second while I clear away. Okay, so I'm just going to join where we left off, and this should be obviously the right side of your work. If you did not finish on the right side of your work after our last section, then you just need to do 1 row of UK double crochets. If, like me, you're now working on the right side, and you'll know because all of the stitches are on the front, then you just need to do 2 rows of UK double crochets, which are obviously single crochets in the US, just 1 in each of our stitches all the way along, just as we have done many times before. But like I said, I'm going to do 2 rows because I'm on the right side of my work. So I'm going to pause the video then. I will come back to you once I've done the second row of my 2 rows. Okay, so now that we are right side of our work facing, I'm going to do a UK double stack, which we have done many times before. Just do 1 and 2. That gets us up to the right height. Going to skip 1, and I'm going to do a V-stitch into this stitch here. So that is 1 UK treble crochet, 1 chain, and 1 UK treble crochet back in the same stitch. So obviously when I call it a UK treble, we're referring to the double crochet in the US if you work in US terms. We're going to skip 1, and we're going to do the V-stitch in the next stitch. And skip 1 and do another V-stitch. I keep losing my yarn. It's because the camera's in the way. Skip 1 and V-stitch. That's what happens sometimes when I'm not at the right angle. It's very annoying. Okay, so that's our repeat. I want you to carry on all the way to the end and leave the last few stitches, and I'll come back to you and show you what we do next. Okay, so we've got 3 stitches remaining, and I'm going to do a V-stitch in this one, and in the next stitch I'm going to put 1 UK treble. So it doesn't match exactly the other side we skipped one at the beginning. So we just need to make sure that when we do this round row, that we account for that. Bear with me a second, I'm going to go down a bit. So now this row is going to be just a row of UK double crochets, which obviously are single crochets to you guys across the pond. I'm going to do a chain and pull it low so it's not even there. And in this first stitch, I'm going to make one UK double crochet. And in the second stitch, I'm going to do another one. And now I'm going to do one in the center of the V. Now we're going to ignore this one and we're going to go into the post, the right hand post of our V, and one inside the V, because we have more stitches in these V rows than we do normally. So we can't go in every single one. We're going to skip that one and we're going to go into the right hand post of the V and one into the V. And we're going to do that all the way to the end. Okay, nice and easy. So I'm going to pause the video again then. I will catch up with you when we get to the end of this row, because remember our two ends are not the same. And I will catch up with you when I have a few stitches left of this row. Okay, so where that row was fanning our work out, this is pulling it back to its right size. So now we've got to the end, we're going to go in that post exactly the same as before, one into the V. But before, remember we had this one where we skipped, so we need to go into this stitch and one in the very last stitch, and that then brings our stitch count right. So we're going to turn our work and we're going to repeat those two rows. So remember then, when you do this row, you skip the first one, but you don't when you get to the end, you go into the next one. And then when you come back, we go in the first one in the very first post and one into the center, all the way until the end. But we have to make that stitch count right when we get to the end by putting that one in this post of the V as well as this post, because we have that skipped stitch there. So I did a total V rows of 3. Now, of course, if you want to do more, then that is up to you, especially if you're working on the larger sizes of the blanket. I'm working on the smaller size. So obviously, if you're working on the larger sizes, you might want to do more rows. Otherwise, you'll end up with a bit of a square blanket. But if that's okay by you, you can do exactly the same as I have. So I'm going to do a repeat again of the V row and one more of these. But for you guys, you need to do that twice, and I will come back to you and show you what we do next. Okay. So you'll have your 3 rows. This is just my swatch, so I only want 2. Now, because we have quite a thicker couple of rows at the bottom, I'm going to do one more row along here of the UK double crochets. So just one more all the way along, nice and simple. I don't quite know what happened there. I told you sometimes I don't like to have my loop facing the wrong way, and that seems to be one of those times. Anyway, I'm going to go in all these all the way along, nice and simple, easy peasy and boring to watch. So I will pause it and come back to you once we get to the end, and I will show you what we do next. Okay, so I've made it all the way to the end. I'm just going to cut my yarn. Scissors upside down. Okay, and I'm going to bring in, end this one off as usual, just as I normally do. Bring in my new colour, I'm going to turn my work and just attach it in the very last stitch as I usually do. Okay, and guess what? First row is just going to be, as usual, a row of UK double crochets or single crochets in the US, just as we have just done. The last row, we're going to repeat it and get us back to the right side, and also a nice little foundation of this colour to work with. Okay, so I'm going to pause it then. I'll catch up with you at the end of this row. Okay, I've made it all the way across, and now I'm going to show you what I did for this bit here. Now, I really love this stitch. I've got a variation of it that I kind of invented myself called the Rocky Road stitch, but this one is the actual stitch that is recognised. Anyway, so I only did 6 rows of it, but of course you can do more. I may do a few more yet. I've not decided. I've still got some of this yarn which I'm using now, so I can add to it should I want to. But I do have a small confession to make, and that is, on this swatch I have gained a stitch, and this is what I say to you many times. It's simple to either lose a stitch or gain a stitch here and there. The end of the world is not nigh. We will just count for it. So this particular stitch that I'm doing now, we're going to start by doing 1 UK double crochet in the first stitch. In the second stitch, we're going to do a UK treble crochet. And then in the next one, a double crochet, and then a treble crochet. So we're going to repeat that one after the other. 1 UK double, 1 UK treble. Obviously, a US single, a US double. We're going to do that all the way to the end of this row. This is a lovely texture, this stitch really is, and it's great for anything that you want to have a little bit of texture for. So just one after the other, alternating all the way to the end. So I'm going to pause the video and I will catch up with you when I get all the way across. Okay, so I've got all the way across except for my very last stitch. Now, as I've said to you so many times, you know, having one too many, one too few will not make any difference. So I would have ended on a UK treble crochet, but I still have one more stitch. So I'm going to end as I began with a UK double. I'm going to turn my work, and now whatever, it doesn't matter with this at all, because we will end this particular section in a different way. So it doesn't matter. You'll see when we get to the end why it doesn't matter that you're going up and down, up and down. So with this row, we are going to do the opposite. So this ended with a UK double. So we're going to start with a treble. And then where we had our treble, you can recognise it because it's got this bump, we're going to do the double crochet. So whatever we did the row below, we're doing the opposite for this row. And it kind of over 2 rows creates a little kind of whirl of texture. Can't really see it at this moment, but if I bring this in, then you can see it. You kind of get this little whirl of texture over 2 rows. Okay, so that's the repeat then for this part. We treble in our doubles and double in our trebles. So if you're in the US, you double in your singles and you single in your doubles. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to do that all the way along, just doing the opposite of what's happening on the row beneath. Okay, so I'm going to pause it again then. and I'll catch up with you once I get to the other end. Okay, so there I am all the way to the end, and this is the opposite, the kind of the won't see the pattern forming just yet until we've repeated it a few more times, but you can see there is a bump kind of happening here. Now I did a total of 6, so you could see there was 2, 4, 6, possibly that was 7 rows, because the first one sets it up. But what you want to achieve is 3 complete, on the right side, 3 complete rows of that that pattern. Now, obviously, as I said before, if you want to do more, then you can, because you might want to make your blanket the larger sizes. So it is completely up to you, and it's also how you want this to work. I quite like this blanket having some larger sections of colour than others, but if you want this to be a larger one, then, as I said before so many times, decision is yours. So on this row then, we are going to do exactly the same thing. So in here we're going to do a UK double crochet, and because this one was a double, we're going to put in a treble. So we're going to carry on doing that all the way to the end, and as I said before, for a total, I think it was 6 rows, or it may have been 7. It was just, you need to get the pattern forming, and there we go. You can see it starting to form there, these kind of bumps. Okay, so I am going to make this my last row because I don't want to waste my yarn. Obviously, I'm making the swatch so I can show you the stitches on the tutorial, but I don't want to have large sections taking the yarn that I would use for the blanket, especially with this yarn. It's, as I said before, the yardage, I got these for the colours from Wool Warehouse, but the yardage is not great for them, so they don't have any more when I went back, and I don't really want to keep buying more. I've got quite a lot of colours as it is, so I'm going to conserve my yarn. Now that you know how this pattern works, you treble where you doubled, and you double where you trebled, and you carry on until you have the 3 kind of distinct rows of that pattern showing on the right side. So once you get to the very end, I might as well stay with you because I'm almost at the end of this row. Once you get to the very end of this pattern section, I'm going to show you next how we end that off, because it's still a little bit bumpy when you look at it. To start up a new pattern, it's going to not be quite even. So we're going to even it off on this coming row. Just need to get to the end. Okay, so imagine then that all of my rows were complete of this particular pattern, but you will want to end off on the right side so that we're ready to start again the wrong side. How do we do that? So where we have, I'm going to do a chain and cinch it down because I'm going to do a UK half treble now, and if I don't do that chain, then I get a loop appear at the side and it doesn't look particularly nice. So I'm going to yarn over, go in that stitch, pull up my loop and go through all 3. Now the next stitch was my treble, so I'm going to do a double crochet as before. So where we would normally do our treble, we're going to do a half treble because we want these now to be the same size, and this one is a little bit smaller than this one, So we're kind of bringing those sizes back to parity, making it nice and straight by half treble, which is a half double in the US, where we would normally put our treble in the double crochet. We're putting the half treble, and we're going to do our sort of double crochet where we were before in the treble. And that will then square that off nicely, make it nice and flat, giving us a good sort of flat work for our next section. Okay, so that's just simple and easy all the way along, where we've got our, what we want to do, our taller stitch and then our shorter one. Okay, so I'm going to pause that then, and I will catch up with you when I get to the end of the row. Okay, so I'm all the way to the end. Just going to cut that yarn and again do my chain and pull it right down and pull that through to end off. And we're ready to start our next one. Obviously, I've finished this on the wrong side, but with the blanket, let's bring the blanket back because that's what actually matters. Let me just bring that round. That's it. Where are we? It's so big now, it's hard to control it on the side. So there we are. You and the blanket that I'm working on, we will finish on the right side. So that's how it will look. You'll just carry on until you've got your pattern, end off, and make sure you end off on the right side of your work. So that's this section then, or two sections even. Now, what's your takeaway from this? That, as I said, it doesn't matter if you lose a stitch or gain a stitch, and it happens to all of us, even creators. We do that. You know, if anybody tries to tell you different, then they're fibbing to you. It happens. Goodness knows where I picked it up. Probably one of the ends, who knows, but it happens. So we just get round it. Okay, so that's the end of this one. I will see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye for now.